This inconspicuous cardboard box may just contain the future of sim racing haptic transducers. I'm fortunate to be the first one in the world to review it. Let's see what's in the box. What's going on, guys? It's Mike for SimRacing 604, and this is a new haptic transducer kit from a company called SlipAngle. If you haven't heard the name, that's fine. They're a company just trying to get their name off the ground, just trying to get the company off the ground, rather, and build a name for themselves in the sim racing industry. So basically, they're a Canadian company. They reached out to me and said, we have this new product. We'd like you to try it. I had a couple of conversations with the owner. We got along great. Highly intelligent guy, highly likable guy. And his theory, the theory behind his company basically is that sim racing haptics could be done better. So it's transducers as you're used to. If you're used to the butt kicker, Gamer Plus, Gamer Pro, which I've reviewed on this channel and I really liked. And the owner had really good things to say about it, but he still thought there was room for improvement at a price point that was not much higher. So there's a lot of intelligence that has gone into this product, but basically the simplified theory is that there should be a transducer at any corner of your aluminum profile rig, and also the rig should be on springs that will allow smaller transducers to do a lot more work. Obviously, the install process is going to be a little bit more complicated than I'm used to, but I think in the end, this should be an exciting product. So again, company is called SlipAngle, and let's get this unboxed. And it should be fairly self-evident, but SlipAngle did send me this for review free of charge, but opinions and words are my own. So let's see what we have in here. We should have everything we need, not just the transducers, but also the sound card. We should have the springs that my rig will sit on. We should have T-nuts, bolts, everything else that's required to get this fully up and running. Speaker cable as well, which we see here. So we have a sound card here, which is 7.1 USB sound card. More speaker cables. And then we have these little clips, and I'll get this opened up and show you guys a little bit closer in a bit. But basically this is to clean up the speaker cabling so it's more discreet on your rig. T-nuts and bolts. Aha, here we have SlipAngle branded springs. So somehow this is going to attach to my aluminum profile cockpit and get it basically floating, and they feel like pretty heavy duty springs. So there was some concern when I talked to the owner about me being a bigger guy and will this be enough to actually suspend my rig with me on it, but feels very solid, so we'll see what comes of it. And there is these custom plates, which will allow you to attach the spring to your rig. And then this will go onto the aluminum profile. These 4 bolts will go onto the aluminum profile. And then the spring will basically sit in here as far as I'm aware. So all seems like it's nicely put together. Actually, I'm going to pause the video and get more stuff out of the box, and then we'll talk about what's in it. All right, so I've got things pulled apart here, and these are the transducers. There's actually 4 of these in the box. I've only pulled out 1 so far, but it's just got the 2 speaker cable connections at the top, which are spring loaded. So you just basically put the cable in there, press, slide it through, release, and it's going to clamp down, give you good contact. This transducer, for anyone wondering, roughly 6 inches, 5.5 inches, 140 mil roughly in diameter. And then I noticed that there's 2 types of springs. This one is marked rear. So the orange is going at the rear. The green is going at the front. And that again is going to float the rig so we can get more out of those transducers. I talked already about the 7.1 sound card, but there's also this. And I'm not sure how this is all going to connect, if I'm being totally honest. But there is another device in here. It looks like it gives individual control possibly over the transducers. A little 4-channel amplifier, I suppose. USB, so I'm not sure if I need 2 USB cables. So there's a few things I still need to figure out, obviously. But yeah, it looks like it's all here. Is there anything else to show you? I already showed you the T-nuts and bolts, so it seems like we have everything we need. So yeah, nicely packaged. I'm going to get to work. I'm going to get these springs mounted first and foremost on my rig, so I can get it floating, and then I will start work on the transducers. And then, of course, we will test. So lots to do. So I'm probably going to go away for a couple of days. When I come back, I'll have the full ZZ Top style beard. But eventually I will get this all mounted, and I'm excited to test it. All right, so time for some notes on the installation and setup of the slip angle haptic feedback system. And it's sort of a tale of 2 stages, the physical install and the software setup. The first part went smoother than I thought. Slip Angle's website has some simple diagrams to reference, and I was able to get my cockpit mounted onto the springs and then the transducers mounted above the springs in less than 2 hours. So not exactly plug and play, but it also wasn't as long as I thought it would be, and it didn't really feel difficult. But setting up the gear in Windows took longer than I expected. The sound card registered in Windows as a USB device quickly and easily, and then I followed the screenshots on the Slip Angle website to get the 4 transducers registered as individual surround sound channels. Fine so far, but then that was the end of the easy part. I couldn't get the rear transducers to vibrate through SimHub despite them working as speakers in Windows. Thankfully, I was able to dig a bit and find that mapping the rear tires to channels 5 and 6 in SimHub instead of 3 and 4 as it is by default made it work. And I also didn't realize that you could continue to use your normal sound output while SimHub directs data to the Slip Angle sound card. So my first few experiences driving were with the transducer sound only, and this is probably me just not being very smart, but buyer beware, the sound card for the transducers needs to run in parallel via SimHub with your normal sounds. And now let's talk about the driving experience. I booted into AMS2 first using the suggested profile, which is noted on the Slip Angle site, and it didn't really do it for me. Right away I did see the potential, but there was a significant amount of tweaking to be done. I adjusted the levels in the suggested slip angle profile, and it felt good. Not great though, just good. Then I moved on to ACC and accidentally loaded the SimHub default profile instead of the slip angle default profile, and it finally clicked for me. Creeping down the pit lane in the Ferrari GT3 Evo at Imola with the engine RPM shaking the seat had me sold already. And then I started hitting curbs and running off track slightly, and having the directional haptics was unbelievably cool. An interesting note is that the front vibrations definitely felt stronger than the rear, and I suspect this is due to there being less play in the rear springs because I'm heavy and I'm compressing those rear springs, so a bit of balancing to the front and rear will be required, but it does reinforce the importance of the springs and validates the general theory Slip Angle is proposing. I can summarize my experience with the Slip Angle system by saying the cars felt alive under me. This is the exact reason I love racing with a motion setup. It's not about being thrown around so much, it's about the car feeling alive underneath you, and the Slip Angle system does exactly that, and it does a great job with it. Alright guys, so final thoughts on the Slip Angle haptic feedback system. And I told you guys by the end of this video I would have a longer beard, and I do, but it's not for the reason that I thought. It's not because it was a difficult install. It's actually because I had a nasty bout of COVID. And I posted this on YouTube, and so many people reached out with positivity and wished me a speedy recovery. So I just want to thank everyone for that. I want to apologize also to the people at Slip Angle. I told them I would have this review done in July, and I'm well behind on that. So I apologize for that. And thank you all for the well wishes. You can probably hear it a little bit in my voice, but I'm still recovering. It's been well over a week, and I basically haven't been able to get off the couch. So thank you all for your patience. But final thoughts on the Slip Angle haptic feedback system. And starting out with the positive, of course, and first thing is the haptics are fantastic. I didn't think the differentiation between the front and rear tires or the left and right tires would matter as much as it does, but it really does. Those sensations are incredible. Took me a bit of tweaking to get there, but once you get it dialed in, it feels phenomenal. Very, very different from my butt kicker, and I'm not saying anything bad about the butt kicker. I think it's a fantastic product, but this just seems to reach a higher level thanks to having 4 of these transducers, one mounted at each corner of the rig. Pretty incredible. And the second positive is the price. So at $500 US plus $50 to ship anywhere in North America, a little bit more to get it overseas. I think it's a very good deal. You can definitely get haptic systems for less, but I don't know of any that cover all four corners and give you this level of fidelity in your haptics for this price. So obviously the single unit butt kickers come in for less. You can also buy individual haptic units for less, but the complete system for $500 I think is a very, very good deal relative to what you get. And moving into the neutral category now, things that I'm so-so on. Number one is the install. The physical install didn't go too badly for me. As I say, it was well under 2 hours, and that was including camera setup and things like that. It wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be, especially once you get the first one done. It all kind of clicks and it goes fairly easily. All the parts you need are included, which is great, down to nuts, washers, bolts, everything, cables, and it's all there. And so the physical install was good, but I did struggle a bit with the software side. Now that could come down to me, maybe not all users will struggle as much, but I would like to see a little bit more clarity on that from SlipAngle, especially when I had to remap the channels to 5 and 6 instead of 3 and 4. That was just something I kind of stumbled across, and I'm not sure all users would, so it would be nice to get some clarity on that. And also the default profiles, I think in SimHub could use some work. I didn't have one for ACC, loaded up the default one, and it felt great. Then I kind of worked back and got AMS2 to that next level just from the SimHub default. So I'd like to see the SlipAngle defaults come a little bit closer to that SimHub default level. And the second thing, number one was really long, I'm just realizing now, but the second thing in the neutrals category is the assembly. It does feel kind of DIY. It does feel like, an assembled kit of miscellaneous parts as opposed to a complete solution. There is some branding of SlipAngle on some of the gear, but not much. Mostly it's disparate pieces put together. Does the system work well? Yes, it works very well. But there is that feeling of DIY, and it's like, could I do this myself? So it'd be nice somehow to get a little bit more branding from SlipAngle, make you feel like you're buying the complete solution as opposed to having somebody else sort of source the disparate parts for you. Is it a bad thing? No, that's why I put it in the neutral category. It's all there. If you were to DIY it, you would need to source all your cable, all your T-nuts, all your, bolts, things like that. Make sure they're all the right length. SlipAngle has done that for you. So some good, some bad. And that's in my neutrals. And moving on now to the bad things I don't like about the SlipAngle solution. The first one is that it requires an aluminum extrusion rig to use. So an advantage, and I hate to keep mentioning butt kicker, but let's face it, that's the biggest name in the sim racing world in haptics. If you buy the butt kicker, that can go on anything from a desk chair to a high-end aluminum extrusion rig. With the SlipAngle, all you have is the aluminum extrusion option, so it's limiting in that facet. And also, it's a small thing, but all the cabling should be black. The cabling that's used here, the speaker cable, is that standard clear, so you can see the copper conductors. It tucks into the extrusion, and there's little clips you can use to keep it out of sight, but it would be easy, in my opinion, to make it all black and just keep the entire install very, very discreet. So final thoughts, closing thoughts, summary of the SlipAngle haptic feedback system. Well, I think it's great. I think it's excellent. It requires more to set up than some other competitors in the market, but once you get it up and running, I think it's a really, really great system. It was a bit of a struggle for me on the software side. The hardware side actually went together quite easily, and I think for the price you get a lot with this. I came up with the analogy. I had a lot of coach time over the past 9 days, and I came up with the analogy that it's a bit like this is PC sim racing, and let's say a butt kicker, a single transducer would be more like console sim racing. This takes a lot more work to put together, but the ceiling of what you can do with it is far, far higher. So if you're the type that doesn't mind a bit of tinkering, doesn't mind the longer install time, doesn't mind the tweaking, or in fact seeks out the ability to tweak and customize, this could be a great product for you, and especially again at that $500 price point, I think it's a very good deal. So there's a lot to offer here. Well done to SlipAngle. I think it's a great product, and I wish them all the best in the future, and thank you so much to them for sending me this unit. I had a lot of fun with it, and I hope to integrate it into my main rig at some point. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.